Welcome to Breakpoint, the show with the hottest goss this side of the stack trays. We've spotted some crazy new features from Sentry that only developers could possibly care about. First up, robot labor has entered the chat, and by that we mean workforce. Lazar spent some time with it, and the vibes were decidedly not bad. Let's hear more.
We've been messing with AI, and we came up with a really cool feature that actually fixes the bugs for you. Let me show it to you. All right, first I'm gonna trigger an error. There we go. Now I'm gonna go to my Sentry issues page. There it is, cannot read properties of undefined reading question. Let's get into it. The new feature lies here in the Solutions Hub section. So we're using AI to figure out what's wrong just by looking at the stack trace and the error and provide you with a possible cause. So type error occurs when accessing displayed flashcards on the step index.question, right? Trying to access question on something that's undefined. The possible cause says displayed flashcards might not be initialized or populated before rendering. Check data fetching logic. Okay, let's open the Autofix section and let Sentry generate an actual fix for us. So I'm going to start on the Start Autofix. It's going to start thinking and it will come up with possible solutions. So let's give it a minute. Okay, it generated a potential root cause, a race condition in data fetching and rendering with insufficient error handling. I'm not gonna go through all of this, but it basically gave us two snippets where the error is occurring. A potential issue lies here in the use memo, no validation of data before using it, and then another snippet is rendering logic in flashcards components. No null check or undefined check before accessing properties. So it makes sense to me, so I'm just gonna use the suggested root cause, but there's an option to propose your own root cause if you think it's something else. For now, I'm just gonna click use suggested root cause and ask it to find the fix for me. Okay, there it is. So the suggested fix adds an early return in the flashcards.tsx file that checks if the displayed flashcards is either undefined or empty, should return a card with no flashcards as title instead of just letting the app crash it. Great, so if we're happy with this, we can just click on use this code and it gives us two options. We can either check out locally, which will create a branch in GitHub for us, or we can click on the draft PR if we wanted to open a draft PR additionally to creating a branch. So I'm going to open a draft PR. There it is. So if I click on the PR, we can see that there's a detailed description of what the PR does. It links to the actual issue that I have in Sentry. And if I look at the files changed, yep, this is the code that we saw in Sentry. So I'm actually gonna try this PR now. Let's check out the PR number 23 and rerun our Docker Compose application. And there we go, we are running on localhost 3000. So let's try to start a practice session on an empty category. Nice, no flashcards available for this category. So we get a card instead of letting the application crash. As a user, I can click and pick a different category, but it's not going to prevent me from using the application. And there it is. I hope this feature saves you a ton of time, just like it saved us a ton of time while building Sentry, and I hope you like it. Thanks for watching.
Uptime alerting on downtime? Uptime monitoring is all new and answers the question devs are too afraid to ask. Is it still working? Over to me with the latest.
Hello friends, this week we rolled out uptime monitoring inside of Sentry. I thought I'd take it for a spin and show you how it works. Let's get into it. Now to get started, we'll come into alerts, and if I wanted to create a new uptime monitor, I click on create alert and choose uptime monitor from the left. Now with uptime monitoring, we're not just focused on telling you if a service is up or down. We want to make sure that if it goes down, you're getting enough context about what broke, how it broke, who it broke for, and that you're getting some tools to get it back up and running. I've already created a couple of uptime monitors in my environment, and one of them is already firing us down, so let's take a look. Now right away I can see this nice timeline view that shows the health of my service and when it's gone up or down. I can click and drag into specific time frames to see information inside of that window, and we're automatically creating a downtime issue when downtime is detected. I'm going to jump into the configuration of this rule and show you how it's set up. Now, we automatically create one uptime monitor inside of your project for the most visited URL, and you get one included as part of your paid account. But you can come in here to configure additional uptime monitors for different services. I've set mine up against production, and I've set an interval and a timeout of 1 minute and 5 seconds, meaning every minute it'll check, and if that check takes longer than 5 seconds, it'll be marked as down. I've configured a specific URL. For me, I had an API health endpoint that does a database call to make sure it returns a 200 OK, but you might configure it just against your base path, or you might have a specific URL you want to monitor. It's very configurable here. We just want to make sure it's getting a 200 OK back for the check to succeed. On method, I'm doing a get, but if you wanted to do like a database post and make sure it's inserting successfully and getting that 200 OK, you can do that here too. Just make sure you're configuring the right method that matches how your service is configured. We can set up specific headers that we might want to use. And in my case, I've enabled allow sampling. This one's really important because this lets us collect traces attached to uptime monitors. This is really helpful for debugging and understanding where inside of your service is actually breaking when a service goes down. So I always recommend turning this on. We get what the expected check request looks like back, and I've named it and assigned it to me. Let's jump into that actual alert and see what it looks like. Now, as I would expect from any Sentry issue, I'm getting a ton of information here to help debug a problem. I can see exactly what the failure reason is. I can see that sample trace that's attached to the part of my service that's breaking. And I even get this really nice connected issue for another issue that has a similar trace. And when I dive into this one, I can see things like the stack trace that relates to where in my code this problem exists. I can see a database query failing here. I can see that same trace represented here and details about the actual incoming request. I could even jump in and use Autofix to get information about what's broken and propose a solution to get me back up and running successfully. Now, if I wanted to see all of the uptime monitors configured, I can come into backend and choose uptime monitors here, and they're all going to be listed here. Uptime monitoring rolled out this week. We're really excited for everyone to jump in, create some monitors to check on your service. Let us know how it goes. We'd love to help. Talk soon.
Next up, you won't believe what issue details looks like now. Unrecognizable, so much better. I don't actually care, I like it. Are all things people have been saying. Let's see what Salma thinks.
Debugging is like solving a puzzle. Sometimes you might be solving the puzzle without the reference image. Maybe you lost the original puzzle box, so it's more difficult and sometimes impossible. But puzzles should be relaxing. Sentry's new issue view is designed to give you back the reference image on the puzzle box so you can solve the puzzle quicker and with more clues. Click the conical flask to enable the new issue view, and let's take a look at it. You can now see a clearer label next to the issue title as to how Sentry has categorized each issue. We've also removed a lot of visual clutter from the tabs area and the sidebar, and now you can see everything in one view to tell a more complete story with important context surfaced at the top of the page. The events bar chart has been moved from the sidebar to the top of the UI and shows how many events were affected by this issue. This gives you a quick gut check as to the issue's priority. If there are only 1 or 2 events, maybe it's not that important right now. But if you see thousands of events, it might be worth dropping everything to debug this issue. You also get the device breakdown of events. If your event data is skewed towards a particular browser or OS, for example, this could be an important piece of data to help you debug. Another good piece of context, you can now clearly see when the issue was first and last seen. In the new issue view, we've pulled out the most pertinent data from the context, and now you can see at a glance the user, browser, OS, release, and environment that triggered this particular issue with nice colorful icons. I like this particularly because my eyes don't need to search too hard for that important context. What I'm also really excited about is that you can view the full JSON payload by clicking JSON right here, which is really useful if you know you could find something quicker if you used Command F on all that data. The activity feed has been moved next to the stack trace, so whilst looking at the stack trace, you can add a comment easily to the activity feed if you want to note down anything important for your teammates, rather than switching to a separate UI view. At the top of this sidebar, you can check out the Solutions Hub, where you can see an AI summary of the issue, and also check out Lazar's video on Autofix if you want to learn more. Moving down, the replay and breadcrumbs are shown as before, but now below the breadcrumbs, the new view surfaces the full trace that led to this issue. Before, you might have needed to navigate away or open a new tab to go and search for the trace that related to the issue, but now it's right there in front of you. And if you need to inspect it further, you can click on the trace to go directly to the trace view. We've also cleaned up the HTTP request area, showing more clearly the query string and the HTTP headers, and you've got all the extra context you might need to help you debug below. You also get even more clues by being able to view a list of similar issues or issues that have been merged together if they exist. Give the new issue view a try today by clicking on the conical flask right there. And if you have any issues, you can submit feedback to us right from the app. Now, go enjoy solving your puzzles.
Sentry put what? Where? Tired of trying to find the right tab? That's right, Dan the developer. There's now a toolbar in your application with all the red flags. Let's go to Sarah for more.
One of the hardest parts about debugging is being able to recreate what your users were experiencing when issues happened. That's why you hopefully use Sentry and you use things like our session replay and our user feedback module so that you can get a better contextual understanding of what's going on every time issues or slowdowns pop up. Today, I want to introduce you to a couple of newer features that are going to help you with this same type of contextualization of what your users are experiencing. Let's jump into it. So first of all, we have the Sentry Dev Toolbar. So after you've integrated the Sentry Dev Toolbar, it's pretty easy. You just log into Sentry. There we go. And then the toolbar pops up over here on the side. At the very top, you can either pin or log out of Sentry, and then we have 3 other options. Now, this is best used with an application where you know who the user of the application is so that you can show the dev toolbar or not, depending on who's using your application. But no matter what, your data is safe because you do still have to log into Sentry to be able to access this data. So at the top here of our dev toolbar, we have an issues bucket. And here is where we will show the most recent issues related to this application. So we can see that there was a connection terminated, can't refresh revenue data, some other unknown issue, who knows what it is. Next, we have our user feedback bucket. And here you're going to see different feedback that your users have left if you're using the user feedback widget, which we highly recommend you do. And then lastly, we have our feature flags bucket. And here you can see these are the 2 feature flags that I have in my application and that I have registered with Sentry. Now, feature flags is in beta at the time of recording this video, and we do have integrations with providers like Launch Darkly or Open Feature or Unleash, so definitely go and check out our docs to get started with our feature flags. Okay, now something did catch my eye up here in the user feedback. I did see one that was the refresh button on the revenue chart isn't working. I'm not seeing a revenue chart anywhere over here, so I'm gonna first jump into the user feedback. I can just click into it right from here and it just takes me right into Sentry. And I can see here that this person was on Chrome, they were using Mac OS, and they gave me a screenshot. So this chart is definitely not something that I'm seeing on my end, but they do have a session replay. So I can jump straight into that replay and I can see that they do have some extra charts, and then there was apparently this button here at the bottom, and they tried to click it, but it wasn't working. I can jump into that actual issue within Sentry, and I can begin debugging there. But I do know that I've got feature flags, and if I recall, my feature flags were related to invoices and revenue. And since I'm not seeing anything on my screen, I bet that's the issue. So I'm gonna just look really quickly over here, and it seems like, yes, we do have the 2 feature flags, revenue and invoices, and they're both set to true for this user when they had this issue. So I'm gonna jump right over here, and I'm just gonna toggle these both to true, just so I can see what the user was actually saying. This better matches what we were seeing over here in their user feedback and session replay, so I know we're on the right track. Now, I can see that there is this refresh button. I can click it and I can see nothing is happening. So now I have verified that this issue is happening also on my device. This is my live deployed application. I toggled my feature flags and I can actually test it out right here. So now that I've verified that this is an issue, I can follow it up with a fix, and hopefully we can get these revenue charts refreshed. So let Sentry be your go-to debugging tool, because whether it's the detailed information that you get within each issue, the auto fix to automatically fix your issues for you, or the connection to your actual users with things like user feedback, session replay, or being able to actually toggle feature flags using the dev toolbar from your live application, we want to make sure that you're getting the most up-to-date information so that you can better fix issues faster.
Join us next time where gamers take center stage and finally get a seat at the popular table. This is Cody. Catch you on the next pull request.